Welcome back. You're watching NBS Morning Breeze. My name is Ben Mwine, and there are two things that are said to be inevitable in life: death and taxes. Shamim has laid some really good background and foundation for topical discussion today as we talk about taxes and where we are going. You had some very good insights from Ron Kawamara there. Now we turn our heads, or should I say our guns, to the people who are at the heart of taxes in this country. Joining me on the show this morning, Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner General John Rujoshi Musinguzi. CG, welcome to Next Media Park. Good to see you as always.
Thank you, Ben. Happy to be here.
I guess we should start by saying congratulations to you. You've just been given a new contract by the president, so I guess congratulations are in order.
Thank you, Ben. Greatly honored to serve our country for another term, and great appreciation to the appointing authority.
Unfortunately for you, this new appointment has come with a bit more drama than I think you had in the previous term. I'm looking at a sheet in my hand that is almost like a vote of no confidence in you if you look at it from that perspective of people who are saying enough is enough. We have unfair government systems. They are calling for a countrywide protest. Business is not for minorities. I mean, it sounds rather alarmist, but I guess you signed the contract. You can't shy away from these things. We must talk about them. So
that's right.
You had an engagement with the traders together with the PSST, good friend Ramadan Gwabi, just last week regarding these particular issues. If you don't mind, maybe starting from there, giving us a background.
Thank you.
Where is this coming from?
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. I'm definitely glad to start here because it's an issue where we've been so silent, and the only voice in the public has been this voice of alarming and rallying people to demonstrate and close businesses. First of all, Ben, let's begin from the principle where you started. Something you can't avoid in life is paying tax. Two, it's not as easy as having a cup of tea. It's a responsibility that you must do with a bit of sacrifice. But with discipline, you can do it gladly. And taxation can never be a reason for your business to struggle. So I think the season we are in now as a nation is one where we must come together and honestly talk about tax, so that we know that it's a responsibility that we must do as citizens if we want our nation to develop. And I'm very happy to follow a discussion that was talking about these facts. Tax to GDP ratio of Uganda being at 14. How can a country develop when we are only collecting 14% of our GDP? Developed countries of the world, like Denmark, they collect 46% of their GDP. The OECD countries collect at least 35 and above. The average of Africa is about 16. Uganda, we are at 14. So really, we are not in a place where we should be talking about payment of tax as being optional. Right. No, we should be at a point where we are saying, what can we do to improve our tax collection? Now, speaking about this particular group that is rallying our businesses to close, first of all, there's this section which says unfair government systems. And the number one on top is IFRIS. IFRIS, in full, stands for Electronic Fiscal Receipting and Invoicing System. It's a technology platform that helps taxpayers to keep accurate record of their business transactions, and at the same time helps URA to assess these transactions for tax purposes accurately, scientifically, without guesswork, without negotiation. So it is a good system for the tax body. It's a good system for the businesses. A lot of businesses, I think, fail because of poor record keeping. You don't want to accurately declare what you have stocked in, what you have sold out. The day you're out of business, someone you've left behind will tell you what they've sold. You won't know. Why? Because we've not been having a good record-keeping system for these businesses. Now, this technology helps a business to keep good records for itself, but it also helps the tax body to assess the right taxes. It is the technology that you acquired in 2019, even before I joined the body. But of course, you know what followed. 2020 was COVID lockdown, so we could not even roll it out. But in 2021, we started rolling it out, and we prioritized it. Although it is a system that can work for many, many businesses, we said let's start with VAT-registered businesses. So we started with the big businesses like factories, like supermarkets, those that have accounting systems. We would just do what we call system-system integration. Bring our IFRS system, interface it with their sales system, and then we are able to pick. Everything that you said is physicalized.
Yeah.
At the end of the month, when you're supposed to be sitting down to enter in an Excel sheet what you have sold, on which day, what has been returned, now with this IFRS system, you don't have to do that.
The system generates it for you.
At the end of the month,
Yeah.
you click a button and it will bring you all the pre-entered sales. And then it will say confirm. Is there an error? Is there something that was reversed? Is there something that you sold off the system for whatever reason? You have an option to enter it then. And then you click the button, you will have made your return for the month. And it will accurately calculate for you the VAT that you have to pay. Now, who on earth would reject such a system? But now, initially, we started with the manufacturers, with the big companies, with the established ones which had accounting system. So we did system-system integration. Now, the next group needed to have devices, those that do not have actual sales system. So we introduced what we call EFDs, electronic physical devices. These ones were being sold at a cost of about $100. And then, of course, because system, every business wants to minimize cost, many said, no, we don't have money to buy this. So we said, okay, how can we make it cheaper? We went back into development. We developed apps that can be put on your tablet, that can be put on your desktop, can be put on your mobile phone, widening the channels so that no one fails to utilize this system because of the cost of acquiring it. That took us time. Now, from about 2022, we're beginning to roll out this. And at that time, we approached our friends, especially downtown. You know, we have an impression that business downtown is all small, but that's not true. If you ask the banks, I think they will tell you their best performing branches are downtown. And also, we all know that a lot of business starts downtown, then it goes even into the supermarkets, which we call big, and then it goes up country. And taxation must be fair. If you are to tax, you need to tax everybody across board. So we are saying, okay, as we introduce these technologies in the high-end businesses, we must also bring it to downtown. But we take them at their own pace. First sensitize them, first educate them. And indeed, from 2022, we've been engaging and sensitizing. There is no group of business community here whom I've not met. Not once, not twice, probably 3, 4, 5 times.
Right.
Trying to educate them. So the first reason was we don't have money to buy the devices. Actually, at that point, we bought promotional devices, about 400 of them, and we supplied them to people in Chukuwo, but they were never used. So we said, okay, let's develop the technology they can use on their phone. So we developed a mobile app. Now, we've been sensitizing. At the end of last year, I went downtown in Chukuwo, that's where I had my meeting, and we spoke about this, and they said, CG, we are not sensitized, at least allow us some period for your people to intensify. I've been having a permanent desk there to sensitize people, to educate them. It's not a complicated, if you can make a phone call here, Ben, you can also use this phone to issue an IFRS receipt. Right. So recently, from January, I said, no, we have sensitized. We have brought several channels for this technology to simplify it. Please, let's start using it. And now we had kind of exhausted each other's excuse. On my side, I had provided the channels which were not there. I had sensitized. On their side, I think they had no more excuse. So then they said, now, Lindako. So I said, okay, I even started.
The only argument here from their side has been, we are not sensitized. It wasn't about taxes being unfair or being unfairly taxed. It seemed to have mostly been about the fact that we don't understand your system yet, give us time to learn it, because...
The last engagement I had, Ben, we were at UMA Conference Center. I came with my team to say anybody who says it's not sensitized, because this is not something you take a whole day to learn. No, if you're willing to learn, even in a day you can. I said, okay, I've been having a permanent team there. If anyone has not heard, let's project and show you. But no one was willing to listen. So I think that one, and even now as we speak, our teams are in Ichikubo, not to enforce, but mainly to sensitize. So they're walking shop to shop. If you don't know, let's help you. You can't upload this app, we can do it for you. You can't use this, let's show you. So what is the harrow-barrow? If we are down there to sensitize, and you are running away from sensitization. So I really want to submit that IFRIS is a good system for the taxpayer, for the tax body. It is a fair system. It will distribute. And remember, the tax head we are monitoring with this system is VAT. We all know that VAT is an indirect tax. You put it on the cost of the item you're selling. Now the problem, Ben, if we apply this technology for monitoring VAT in one part of the business or the country, and we don't apply on the other, we are causing an imbalance. The one who is not collecting VAT can easily undersell, make more turnover. Oui. He can share that, and I think this has been the practice. He still charges it, but he uses it as his own profit. So that is unfair. And for us to promote the expansion of the tax base, including everybody, let's really accept this technology and we level the ground. But also very importantly, take away the pain of taxpayers feeling that sometimes URA overassesses them. We would be scientifically saying, you sold goods worth this much, only this percentage was VATable, and this is the VAT you have to pay. So it is a good win-win. If we have not sensitized, we are down there sensitizing. Does it call for a demonstration? I don't think so. Double taxation. Where are we double taxing? We do not tax, there is no new tax that has been introduced. As you know, we are now in a cycle of discussing tax measures. Right. If there is going to be any new tax, it will be effective 1st July in the new financial year. Right. So what is the double taxation? What I suspect, and I'm saying this because I want to help the people who feel overtaxed or double taxed. There has been some group of middlemen in the business community. They are not actual traders. They are just in there. They are brokers. Some of them, they call themselves container leaders. When taxpayers are importing goods from China, they consolidate these goods. They are not even consolidators because we have registered consolidators. But these fellows who call themselves container leaders have been paying taxes on behalf of the taxpayers and then charging them their own tax rates. For example, those who deal in textiles, we charge those textiles per piece. We have a value for the piece and we subject a rate to that. These people, I'm told, they don't use per piece, they use the size of the space you're occupying in the container. Now, I'm told where we charge, for example, on a container about 100 million, they collect from these innocent taxpayers who are not very literate about 200 million. Making huge margins. That's double. What is so my suspicion is that these friends who are middlemen, who you trust, and now how I come to know they are the ones behind this demonstration. When I see the fellows leading this, I've gone in my tax database, they are not there. They are not taxpayers. They don't have running businesses. They are middlemen. So what is happening? As we tighten the controls...
Just for the record, they are not middlemen sanctioned or licensed by
they are not
URA.
Legitimate middlemen.
Right. They are not agents.
They are not agents. They are not consolidators. They have postured as people who are trying to help the semi-literate from the burden of paying tax. Now, some of these technologies are meant to take away this. We want to make tax paying a very simple and enjoyable exercise. Simple for the land, for not very land, and for everybody. That's why we have introduced payment over the phone, like you pay for your water bill. That's why we are trying to do automatic filing. You don't need an accountant. If you're using this system, you just press the button and you will return your file. Yeah. So it is...
Every time I pay for my internet, I get a message saying I've paid tax. So
exactly.
Right.
So it is a way to simplify it. But as we simplify these processes, we are threatening some jobs and we are taking away some extortion. So my thinking about this double taxation, it is about those middlemen. They have increased the tax burden and they add no value. I encourage every taxpayer to deal with us directly. How do I know this, Ben? Some time back I had an angry person on social media saying, ebintu byange biremedde mu URA bimazemu emyezi asatu nze nja kuta omuntu nange nfe. I said, hey, who is this very angry person? So yeah. I made an effort to look for him. I talked to the leaders of traders, and I want to appreciate most of the traders associations. They are very reasonable. So one of the leaders of these associations traced this young man. And when we spoke to him, we found he had imported goods through those container leaders. He tried to steal taxes because they do it routinely. So they even have ways of beating the system and compromising the weak in our teams to pay less. So when they caught him trying to smuggle and they penalized the container, he abandoned it because he had no goods in it, so he had nothing to lose. And he was telling these people, you are active into bagara penalties, all sorts of lies, until we met this person and he told us his ordeal. And what I did, we waived off all those penalties because we knew the person who had smuggled were not these. Yeah. And I made an appeal to business people then, please deal with us directly. If you must go through a consolidator, deal with a registered consolidator. And also that registered consolidator must give us a detailed bill of who is in the container. So yes, you can bring goods for John, for Ben, for Ibrahim, but give us a house bill which tells us that so-and-so has these packages.
An itemized list of
and
all
let
the things
this one so pay their taxes directly.
Right.
You add no value. But when you impersonate and you say, I'm the owner of this container, and you don't tell us who is in the container, and then we charge you 50 million, and you go and charge these people 100 million, you are a cheat. And I think these are the people causing double taxation. Right. 18% on rent.
Yes, because that's been one of the things that has been coming out very strongly from the complaints is that
yes.
The 18% tax on the rate seems to be a bit...
Ben, that is not true. Rent on commercial properties, rental income on commercial properties pays VAT. By the time you are VAT registered, you have an obligation that for every service or good that you sell, which is VATable, you collect 18%. So what the landlords or these tenants are saying is that for all the years, these landlords have not been paying rent. They've been collecting it and keeping it to themselves.
The 18%?
Yes. Right. So what happened recently, we tightened. We are closing leakages. This is the only way we improve the collections. We are closing. So we started closing on the leakages on rental taxes. And as soon as we closed, these people who have not been paying, we put them on IFRIS. Then even in IFRIS, they were under declaring. When they charge rent of 3 million, they declare 300, under declaration of 10%. But we've been engaging. We don't believe in force.
It's almost like an open secret
yes.
in Kampala that
yes.
many landlords will tell you, no, you bring cash, you don't put the money on the account. And we know why they will do that.
That
right?
is true. You know why. And they won't give you a receipt. Now we've said, no, enough is enough, friends. Everyone must pay their fair share. So landlords, please pay.
Do you think, CG, that people have gotten so used to not paying tax on things like this? So if you have your traders in Chikubo, if you have the people who are collecting rent, that all of a sudden you're going to disrupt their livelihood because you're now making them pay a bit of what they should have been paying already.
Yes.
Do you think that might be the actual issue here, that we've gotten away with not paying tax for so long, that now you're becoming a pain in all the wrong places?
That is true. Ben, that is very correct. I think we've not been paying taxes. That's why our tax to GDP is at 14. That's why we must beg and borrow every year. But really, this is the time to change that trajectory. Otherwise, we are going to borrow ourselves and our future into debt, So I think it is time for Ugandans to sit and we say, no, let's start doing the fair thing. So really, it's true. The non-compliance has been known for all the years. Yeah. Now what we have done is to try and reduce, and we are not doing it really drastically. As I've told you, it's been an engaging story. These landlords, we've been engaging. We brought in technology from America. We see what buildings are occupied, what are not, but still the under-declaration goes on. Yeah. So recently I'm meeting these landlords one-on-one and showing them, this is what you've been doing, friend. You have been under-declaring. We can see this without doubt. Can we now make good? And when we started doing that, now that's when they started. Now they've brought a new tax. There is no new tax. We want to tax what they've been collecting and keeping for themselves, but they should share this with the government for us to develop. Yeah. So really, that is the story about rental income. So tenants should know that there is no new tax. Right. They should continue to pay. It is the discretion of the landlord to increase the tax rate. I mean the rental. Right. Yeah, the rent.
But they shouldn't blame it on URA.
They should not blame it. If they choose to increase because they still want to maintain high margins, the fair thing about taxation is that even when you increase your margins, you also increase your tax contribution. Right. In fact, failure to tax has been encouraging the impunity of landlords overcharging these tenants, because whether you profit 5 million on one shop, no one is going to take a bit of that. Yeah. But if you're going to cede 18% of VAT of that, and you're going to cede 30% after taking away your costs of what remains, then you'll think twice, because you'll charge 5, but maybe 1.5 will go back to government. Yeah. So it will take away the appetite for overexploiting tenants.
So even before we talk about some of the other issues that are being raised by the traders and all these people, I think now might be a very good point to just sort of go back and piggyback on what Ron was sharing earlier on with his discussion with Shamim. The fact that everyone must pay their fair share.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
At the moment, the way our system has been is such that there are a lot of people who will earn income and not pay any tax on that income.
Correct.
Unfortunately, I must confess I've been one of those people for a very long time, because as you very well know, I do a lot of MC work. And many of the times you will go and you have an MC job, you have an event, you will get paid. In the US, I would be required to file my own returns, which will be, audited by the most feared government entity in the whole world. It's called the IRS. And we'll talk about enforcement at some point and how you're handling that. But here at the moment, even though URA requires me to be able to file my returns, the way it's being done is that normally it will be done because I'm an employee of Next Media, so I'll pay as you earn here. And then I would be expected to pay withholding tax on any extra income.
That's right.
And what helps me at the moment is that the people that I normally work for are organized, so they actually insist on taking that money off of me before they give me my share.
Very good.
If they're giving me all of it, I can promise you I would not give you any of it. So
that's true. That's true, Ben. And you're not the only
so that
one.
Seems to be the thing, isn't
That's
it?
True.
That people are making money off of different things.
Yes.
But because the enforcement isn't where it needs to be, the discipline isn't where it needs to be, they're not paying their fair share of tax.
Correct. That is very true, Ben, and thank you for that honest submission. I think if we are to be honest, all of us as Ugandans, we've not been paying our fair share of tax. And many times, innocently, because we don't know. And also, sometimes when we know, we are comfortable to maintain the status quo. So this is why engagement is very important. This is why technology is very important. Technology like IFRIS. If you work here at Next Media and you're paid, and they give you an e-receipt, it will be physicalized in our systems. So it is not only Next Media to pay, but even you who has earned, we can use that information to follow up and know, did you actually pay your income tax on this income that you earned? And that is how we've been able to expand our register. As you know, over the last 3-4 years, our register has moved from about 1.7 now to about 4.2 million taxpayers. We need to do that deliberately. I think we have room to grow our register maybe up to about 10 million taxpayers. Everyone contributing small. And that is when we will get to the point and discussion of reducing some of the tax rates, because now the burden can be distributed evenly
Yeah.
across board.
Because at the moment, very clearly,
Yes.
it's still, and again, I think Ron mentioned this, and you've sort of accepted the fact that at the moment, it's a bit tilted.
Yes.
Because of the visibility and access to the different people that are able to pay tax at the moment.
Correct.
Let's take a very quick break, and when we
Yes.
come back, we continue with the CG. Some very interesting questions that we're dealing with. These protests that are being called countrywide, are they justified in any way at the moment? Maybe not. Are they being masterminded by people who simply want to evade paying tax? Maybe, maybe not. Your thoughts on that? You can get in touch, of course, tag us at NBS TV if you're on Twitter, or X as it is called. You can tag me at Ben Mwine at CGURA and share your thoughts or questions if you have any. We'll be right back. Welcome back to your topical discussion here on Morning Breeze. My name is Ben Mwine. I'm joined on the show this morning by the Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner General John Musinguzi Rujochi, who is just a couple of weeks into his new contract as CG at URA, and that has come with a bit more fire than he had before, and we're talking about that and how to deal with it. But essentially, how do we ensure that every Ugandan is paying the right amount of tax that they should be? In case you've been following the news, you will know about the people that have been calling for protests at what they say is unfair government systems and unfair taxation. And we're taking a look at some of that to try and see if there's any merit to some of the issues that are being raised. A couple of them have already been handled by the CG, including IFRIS, DAO taxation, and 18% rent on tax. And if you have any questions about this and need any clarification, URA is very active on social media, and they'll engage with you and can answer any of your questions. You also have a toll-free line that you can be able to call, and any of those will be dealt with, because you should not suffer because of lack of knowledge. We discovered before the break from the CG that some people have been taking advantage of Abatasoma and collecting taxes on behalf of URA, but they are not actual taxes because they are benefiting from this. And there might be a suggestion that maybe some of these people actually are the ones who might not be happy that things are going digital, because then they get taken out of the system. That said, the issues that are being raised, CG, some of them seem to hold some water, and I know you've been having engagements on some of these, and so let's continue picking up on them.
Yes.
One of them being the taxation in kilograms.
Yes.
And that's been quite a bit of a sore spot for many traders.
That's right.
But you've had some engagements on this, and it was one of the key things when you went with PSST about to talk to the traders about this.
That's correct, Ben. This true, it's an issue that we've been engaging, and to some extent, we can understand why the traders feel challenged. This policy applies to only about 47 textile and garments items. It's in the law, and why was it picked in the law? For those particular items, these are items that are manufactured here in the country. So in support of Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, import substitution, encouraging manufacturing, and also promoting and creating a conducive environment for our infant textile sector and industry, the government took a decision to introduce this taxation in kilograms. For the garments, you pay $3.5 per kilogram, or $3 for textile per kilogram. Now, the challenge with this, when you compare it with the tax rate of about 35%, the tax value almost doubled. So a container that was paying about 100 million would pay now 200 million because of this specific rate in kilograms. Now, when it first was introduced, and because it was introduced by Uganda, the rest of the countries in the region, and you know now for customs taxes or international trade taxes, we use the East African Customs Management Act. So it's a uniform tax regime for the whole region. But Uganda, in order to promote and also protect our infant textile sector, we introduced this specific rate. Now, the traders went up in arms and went to the Ministry of Finance, and really as URA, we also explained that the gap was so big, and probably being introduced suddenly would cause some businesses or some of the activities in our economy to collapse. So government stayed that execution for about a year, but then after that, it came back in the last financial year. What have we observed in this period? The importation of these textiles has significantly reduced, but also the evasion has increased because you can now easily pick these textiles from any of the neighbors around where they've landed at a lower tax rate. So that is a challenge that we are looking into it. It has a very clear, good intention and purpose of promoting and growing our textile sector, of adding value to our cotton. We have the best cotton in the whole world, long thread cotton. And that is the reason and the thinking behind it. But for you to change such a policy issue, you must follow procedure. So when we had a meeting with these taxpayers, just about 3 weeks back, the PSST asked that they give us time to take these prayers of theirs and the observations that we have seen in administering this specific tax back to Cabinet, and then Cabinet can make a decision. Honestly, anybody reasonable who knows that process, and we took time to explain how the process works. Ministry of Finance must do a paper for Cabinet, Cabinet must have it on its agenda, discuss it and pronounce themselves, and then they would guide Parliament to change the law. What will demonstration help when there is this process and when there is this engagement? So it's a pain on the part of traders. It is a deliberate step by government to promote this young sector with a lot of potential, because if we add value to our cotton, we can easily be the leading producers of good cotton products as opposed to exporting the raw material. How do we balance this interest? Right. You must give government time to think through this and give you a position. So what does closing the shop do? Yeah. Are you saying you're closing the shop to break the law as it is? What value?
Because at the moment it is a law.
Yes.
But also there's the balance between the bigger picture,
yes,
and the individual benefit.
That's correct.
Because what happens, I will tell you, for example, there are places where I know, I think Singapore is my favorite example because I like cars. I'm
yes,
into cars a lot.
Yes.
The tax rate in Singapore for cars is so prohibitive that they are trying to discourage people from driving cars. We have a very good public, transport system.
Yes.
If you're going to buy a car, you must have so much money that for you it's not an issue of what the tax is, and I think it's about 100 and something %.
That's right.
For you to import a car in there, because it's what the country has decided to do. As a country, this is what's good for us. So
absolutely.
If we're saying here that
yes,
we want to promote our cotton industry and want to do import substitution,
yes,
the person who has been benefiting from that individually importing the textiles loses out.
Feels the
but
pain.
in the
yes,
bigger picture, it's good for the country, and so there has to be that transition, right?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
There is pain
yes,
for some people,
yes, yes,
but bigger picture comes into play.
That's true. It's a transitional pain. And it is important that we face it square, we engage about it, we agree, soberly, not with excitement, not inciting people to close. It is really to the benefit of the people involved to continue engaging government. And on the side of government, I can assure you, systematic steps are being taken to bring it to the attention of the responsible centers to decide. Yeah. So they should just give us time to resolve that.
And again, like you said, it currently is a law, so
yes,
anything to be done in that perspective would have to go through the processes that require for a law to be changed.
That's right.
The other very thorny and sticky issue, CG, is the issue of foreigners who come as investors and end up getting involved in retail, and it's one of the things that actually gets raised by the traders who are complaining about this.
Yes, that's true. It is another point that they raised. And again, this one is being handled. Fortunately, now we have a new law in place that regulates competition. And we have a Ministry of Trade that supervises this. So when they raised this issue in our meeting with the traders and PSST, we agreed that we are going to engage the line ministry and see if they can use the current law to really regulate. Because it makes sense that if you're a manufacturer, please produce and let someone distribute. Then let this distributor also let someone retail. But if you want to complete the value chain, then really there is a point in it. You're killing business for some. Now, from that meeting, I've also tried to talk to some of the manufacturers. I said, why don't you want piece. Why don't you do a bit and allow somebody else to do the other bit? And some of the feedback I've received is that, no, actually, we lack genuine distributors who want to market our product. A lot of people are still focusing on importing.
Right.
They don't want to consume our local products because the accusation was about these people who manufacture jeans and so on. Then they said, if you can get us genuine traders who want to deal in our products, we will give them. We will not compete with them. So I think it is something that the traders should follow up.
Yeah.
It is something that the Ministry of Trade should follow up. Let the regulations be clear on what one person can do and what the other should do. But also, let there be genuine engagement. You cannot be saying they are competing with us when you're also focused on competing with them by bringing things externally.
Yeah.
And as you've always heard our president speak, really, import substitution is very, very important for this nation. Because what do? We get the hard-earned foreign exchange from the exports that we make, and we ship it all to go and import. And year in, year out, our balance of trade is in negatives because we import more than we export. For the economy to be healthy, we must balance this. So these are areas that require honest engagement, again, not demonstration. I don't see how demonstration will sort out this.
It definitely doesn't, but also at the moment, what's the legal framework for things like this? Is there anything that stops me if I'm a Chinese national who was set up in shop in Uganda? Is there any law that says that I can't be able to manage the entire chain from manufacturing all the way to retail?
To be honest, Ben, I've not read the new act. It has just been signed into law.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that this law should be detailed enough to allow that kind of regulation. If it's not, maybe it's time to do a regulation that would guide on how business is. But it makes a lot of sense that there is specialization. You produce, then you allow others to retail or sell what you do. Health businesses do this. I think if you have seen the models of the Mukwanos, they produce. They produce their cooking oil, their sugar, whatever they produce, then there is someone else who distributes and sells. Because if you go direct, now supposing you decide to sell at a rate of distribution at the factory price, then the people that are buying your products will not retail them. So it makes sense, but I've not read that law, and probably, but it's also under the Ministry of Trade to come up with proper guidelines on how that law should be implemented.
Yeah. Then the next thing, CG, becomes the enforcement.
Yes.
Your people are accused of behaving like, I don't know what word to use, but basically high-handedness in enforcement of some of the collection of the taxes. Is this an actual issue? Are some of your people going a bit overboard in their efforts to try and meet your target?
Well, no and yes. No, because as an organization, we promote 3 core values: PIP, patriotism, integrity, and professionalism. Following those 3 core values, there is no room for anyone to act unprofessionally. And if they do, they are clearly going against the ideals of the organization, and we deal with it as an issue of indiscipline. So it would not be professional to be high-handed. We engage our staff and we tell them we are here to collect tax, but not by any means. We must collect legitimate tax, fair tax. So honestly speaking, if there is any element of high-handedness, and actually the other accusation related to this would be corruption.
Correct.
If there is any element of corruption, someone trying to extort money from you illegally, not asking you to pay tax, please share it with us as the leaders of this institution, and we shall deal with it as such. At URA, we established a whole division called Staff Compliance, headed by an assistant commissioner, to deal with discipline issues. We have toll-free lines. We have broadcasted his number. Every time I come here, I mention it, Mr. James Sabola. Please, if there is any indication of corruption, someone wanting to extort from you, or any unprofessionalism for that matter, high-handedness, please report it, we'll deal with it as indiscipline. But overall, we are dealing with that kind of indiscipline, and it is reducing significantly. I get encouraged by hearing so many testimonies from people saying there is change. Our officers are treating us well. Of course, we still have a journey to go. So that's why I say yes, partly. There could be elements. But if there are those elements of indiscipline, we are doing everything to deal with them. Just support us by giving information.
Because some of the
and
elements,
you don't have to expose yourself. Just
some of the elements will be encouraged by those of us who want to avoid paying tax. So we will be the ones trying to compromise your people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And this is still happening.
This happens. There are people who you approach, and the first approach is, can we give you something, and you let. Please don't take that route. That route has expired. At URA, we will not accept anything less. Anybody who does it at their own risk, and they will definitely not have a long time with us, because we are committed to doing this job honestly and with integrity. So hold us accountable on this. Allow our people to do the work, but if you pick a sign of indiscipline, of corruption, high-handedness, please report it to us, and we'll deal with it decisively. Which becomes very important.
The very last question I guess I would have for you would be around the issue of the valuation, because this one for me is also very personal.
Yes.
I'm getting a car from Japan. I'm paying $4,000 for it. I'm bringing it to URA, and you're insisting on charging me more money in tax than I actually paid for the car.
Than you paid. Yeah, true.
How do we deal with that? Because I know where it's coming from. I know that people have always been abusing this. You can't bring a 2022 Range Rover and claim that you paid $2,000 for it.
Yes.
And some people will try and do that.
Yes.
But how do those of us who are actually paying genuine invoices for particular, cars is the example that I use because it's what I do. I'm suffering for other people's bad manners.
You're right, Ben. But fortunately, there's a whole line of options that you use in valuation under customs. So first, priority is given to your invoice value. If your invoice value is suspected not to be true, or maybe you may have, even it may be true, but you got a discount, you bought it on a discounted price. If it is so low, then we move through other options. We can use market estimates, because we say a car imported by X last month, this model, this make, paid, the value was 10,000. Why is Ben's car being declared to be 2,000? Then we also have our own database, which is built over time and using research. We go in our own database, which also sets an average, and we say, okay, if it is a Range Rover, this model, this make, this is the minimum it can pay. So by the time we reject your invoice, we have a reason. It is either so low, below the market value, below the database value, and that way, to be fair to everybody dealing in the same product, we use our database value. There is continuous improvement. Sometimes our values are not very up to date, so there is constant research going into that. But we'll get to a point, Ben, where we will make this whole database very transparent, so that by the time you go to import your car, you know what taxes you'll pay on it. This is what we are working on. And for many countries, they have even used AI. You don't have to interact with anybody. So we are building that capacity, and we shall soon have it, so that at least we are more predictable. You can buy it on a discount, you can buy it from any source, but know that if I'm bringing this vehicle, this model, this is what I will pay. And honestly speaking, we believe that in the next 1 year or so, this process will be very streamlined. If
there was one last thing that you wanted to tell one of the traders who is thinking about joining this protest, what would you tell them?
Ben, thank you so much, first of all, for giving me this opportunity to talk to these friends of ours. Fortunately, I know a number of them who are promoting this. They are my friends. I know them by name because I've met them so many times. So Mr. Kabanda, Mr. Katongore, they know themselves. They know how much I've engaged them. Please, let's stay genuine. Let's not encourage violence and demonstration in our country. let's not disrupt business. Let's be fair to one another. We've been engaging. Let's engage and resolve the legitimate issues and sort out areas where there are weaknesses, but we cannot demonstrate to break the law. I think if they continue, then we will ask other institutions that are responsible for law and order. It's out of my hands at that.
Yeah.
But as URA, for you to go on a demonstration because I've not listened to you, it will not be fair. We have listened to each other. We have resolved a number of things. If there is a group I've met very often, it is the traders. Kasita, I don't know, Arcades Association, New Kampala traders, everybody have been meeting them. Why? Where we are, as a nation, we need to join hands and work together. Where we have been looking for help and support year in, year out, the support is dwindling. For many reasons, good and bad, it is dwindling. Therefore, as a country, we must be self-sufficient. And fortunately, I want to thank the Ugandans who, and all the economic players in this economy, foreigners, everybody doing business here, who have been compliant. I greatly appreciate them. Because despite the challenges of COVID, despite the challenges in the global supply chains and the wars, revenue has been growing. And our government has been able to provide service because there has been. But what we are collecting is still low for us to develop as a country. Until we reach a 20% tax to GDP, we cannot talk about sustainable growth without borrowing and begging and taking all sorts of loans that will be difficult for us to pay back. So it is a time for us to unite as a nation, everyone paying their fair share of tax so that we develop our country. So I appeal to these brothers and sisters of mine. I have seen them using all sorts of propaganda on social media, putting their ladies and zendiringa mumpira, simanyichi. Really, what taxes are we charging you for your tires? Come and we engage genuinely so that we can develop our country. Let's not use disruptive means. And I'm also told there are forces behind this who are not necessarily in the business. Maybe some with political agendas who are trying to sponsor some of these. Please stop it. Don't try to take advantage of such an issue to advance your agenda and disrupt business. So my appeal, there is no reason for demonstration. Let's engage. What we can solve as URA, we will solve. What we can't and we need to recommend and go through the process, we are committed to that. We'll continue to do that. But don't disrupt the business of genuine traders who are paying their fair share of taxes to sustain the country, who are making a living out of that by running such a campaign. So I appeal to all the genuine traders, please open your shops, do your businesses. URA will support you, we will listen to you, and whatever we collect is for the development of Uganda, not for any personal benefit. I thank you very much, Ben, for giving me this opportunity, and I thank Next Media for the platform, hosting us here for a whole hour, free of charge, to speak to our people. We look forward to more engagements.
We thank you. We're here, we inform to transform. We want to serve our country. John Rujoshi Musinguzi, Commissioner General, Uganda Revenue Authority, thank you so much for joining us. Tax is not comfortable. It's not pleasant, but it's necessary.
Yes.
All of us must pay our fair share. If I'm paying mine, why don't you want to pay yours?
Exactly.
Please do pay your fair share of tax and don't complain about it. How the taxes are used, that's a different discussion for another day. For now, please do pay your tax. Have a wonderful morning. My name is Ben Mwine. God bless you. God bless Uganda.